Okay, now we should be back. Let me check. I don't see that we're there. It says we've started. I think I'm yes, you can. Oh, wow. Okay. So just let me know if you can't. I went to Krishna.com. I don't even see myself. But, okay, so just let me know if something goes wrong. Then, yeah, so we'll have the sound effects here. If it's okay. And strange lighting, which is better than my room, because my room is quite dark. So, what was I trying to say? I was trying to say that even though the devotees weren't very advanced, they were very attached to Prabhupada and very attached to doing whatever he wanted, and that became their life and soul. And that you might say, well, why? If they were so young, could they do that? And a couple of reasons. Prabhupada had a mission, and his mission was exciting. His mission was dynamic. It was revolutionary. He was in the process of changing the way people think, as Prabhupada said, a revolution in consciousness. And so that attracted so many people who wanted to change the world, who wanted to make the world better, see the world as a better place. And because it was Prabhupada's mission and he was moving so much in that direction, he was moving so quickly to achieve that, it created like a fervor, created a mood within everyone to do that. And so, you have your general, and he's moving the forces. So Prabhupada's general, he's moving the forces. And as fast as the general is moving, everyone wants to move at that same speed. Of course, nobody could keep up with Prabhupada. But the point was, because he was always moving, we also felt inspired to keep moving. And Prabhupada was always encouraging us to keep moving. And Prabhupada's presence, because of who he was, instilled within us this desire to give ourselves more and more to Krishna. That's what Prabhupada was doing. And so for us it was very, very natural to give ourselves to Krishna. That was the power of Prabhupada's association, that we could give ourselves, I would say, more we had more spiritual strength than we were mustering up ourselves. That it was coming, it was like his desire to spread Krishna consciousness was coming through us. And so it's like we became screws in the machine, his machine. And so we were acting because of our desire to serve him. We could be utilized by him, and therefore empowered by him to act in ways which I would say were beyond our level of realization, our level of Krishna consciousness. Like the intensity with which we served Krishna, or the intensity with which we desired to serve Krishna through serving Prabhupada, was really beyond our own level of advancement. But it was inspired by Prabhupada, and as I said, we became like instruments. So of course that's a wonderful place to be that connected to Srila Prabhupada. And of course, we can also imbibe that spirit. And we are meant to imbibe that spirit because we are pushing on a movement which Prabhupada created. So it's like, as Prabhupada said, it's a family. It's like a family business. So that's what we're doing. Just checking here. Checking on the chat here to make sure everything's good. Okay, so if anything goes wrong, tell me. One devotee said something very interesting. He said, we're celebrating Prabhupada's disappearance day, but we say Prabhupada hasn't disappeared, so why are we celebrating his disappearance day if he hasn't disappeared? And so many of you feel that Prabhupada's disappeared. Because you never met him, you never saw him. And so that's what he said, no, I don't see that Prabhupada has disappeared. He said, every time books are distributed, I see Prabhupada has appeared in the heart of the book distributor. And every time the devotees do this, I see Prabhupada has appeared in their heart. And every time they do that, I see Prabhupada has appeared in their heart. So he said, I see Prabhupada appearing in the hearts of so many devotees in so many places around the world. So how can we say that Prabhupada has disappeared? He's still appearing always. So I thought that was very nice. We see how we see Prabhupada in others, not only his disciples, but disciples of his disciples and future generations of devotees. We see Prabhupada's desire being manifest. Now, one thing about Prabhupada, we could say he was the personification of a Vaishnava's compassion, because Prabhupada only wanted to spread Krishna consciousness. And we may have not been very compassionate, but because Prabhupada was compassionate and we wanted to serve Prabhupada, then we became extensions of his compassion, even though we're not that compassionate. I mean, we might not care that much about other people, but because Prabhupada cared and we cared about what he cared, then we cared. So in that way you see how we become elevated by connecting with the desire of the pure devotee. And then any desire that Prabhupada's disciples have, or grand disciples have, it's really just Prabhupada's desire. And if we connect with their desire, we've really connected with Prabhupada's desire. And then so now we're connected with the heart of compassion. And so all our actions, all our activities are activities of compassion. Even though, maybe I'm not so compassionate. Maybe my heart is not so soft. Maybe I don't care that much about the sufferings of others. But Prabhupada cares about it. And because Prabhupada cares about it, then indirectly I'm caring about it through his desire. So I'm acting in a very compassionate way. Prabhupada's desire to serve Krishna is very strong. My desire to serve Krishna is not that strong. But my desire to please Prabhupada empowers me, in a sense, with Prabhupada's strong desire to serve Krishna. And then my desire becomes strong because it's his desire. And so his desire is manifesting through me. So this is like how these very young devotees externally appeared to be very, very Krishna conscious, because they were manifesting through their own heart Prabhupada's desire. So in the sense of like so many pure devotees, and Prabhupada said, all my disciples are pure devotees if they purely follow. So that's how it worked. I'm not a pure devotee, but I purely follow. And so I'm engaged in pure devotional service, and I'm fulfilling the pure desires of the pure devotee, sometimes with a intensity very similar to the intensity of Prabhupada. For example, one time Prabhupada was pushing the devotees to publish his books more quickly. So he said, you should publish the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, you should do all the layout, all the paintings, and the publication in 2 months from the time he finished. The devotees thought maybe, if they really pushed it, they could do it in a year. And Prabhupada said, no, I want it done in 2 months. So now, Prabhupada's desire became manifest through the devotees. And the devotees were working around the clock. They actually had 2 shifts for painting, for layout, for whatever had to be done. So now Prabhupada's desire is being manifest through the devotee. And you could say the devotee on their own may never have that desire or that tendency. But because it was Prabhupada's desire, then it's like a disease, contagious, or like, somebody's touching an electrical wire and you touch them and the shock goes through you. So then that desire becomes manifest. So that's how things went on. And that's how, if we look at our own hearts and our own conditioning, then we could say, well, I'm not always that enthused to serve Krishna. There's a lot of other things I like to do. But when the desire of the Guru enters the heart, it overrides that. And now his desire becomes your desire, so to speak. Although your desire may be so many other things, but his desire overrides your desire. And as long as his desire is there, it will override the other desires. And then you'll act to manifest his desire. And that's the empowerment of the Guru. I remember doing a program, and I was a very young devotee. And I was so inspired, I felt that Prabhupada was just kind of entered my body and used me. And then when I would speak, it was as if Prabhupada were there speaking, and it was as if people were getting, in some sense, Prabhupada's association. So, and I was young. I'm not saying this in a proud way. I'm saying that this is just how I felt, because we wanted to represent Prabhupada's mood and desire. So, Pauli has a question. Such a nice thought. Never thought of it this way. That it's just not our desire. Also, the Guru's desire to serve Krishna that motivates. You see, the problem is that we're so conditioned. Is that what is our desire? All right, we have some desire to be Krishna conscious, but it's mixed up with so many other desires. For prestige, for material gain, for material facility and comfort. And the list goes on and on and on. And these things can get in the way, obviously, of our Krishna consciousness. So we come to Krishna consciousness and we have these things. Every one of us is infected by a desire to be recognized, to be honored. And these things can destroy bhakti. But why don't they destroy it if the desire is there? Because the desire to connect with Prabhupada's mission and what he wanted becomes more important in our life, so it overrides the conditioning. But I should know very clearly, if that's not there, that conditioning will override. That conditioning will become how we act. And we see that when somebody becomes weak in Krishna consciousness, disconnects from Prabhupada's mission and desire, then that's what happens. That former conditioning overtakes them. And they again begin acting as they did before they were devotees, or in some way acting that way. And many times nobody understands how was that possible. That devotee was such an advanced devotee, and now I see them acting in many ways like an ordinary person. It's because those desires, that conditioning was there, but it was being suppressed because what was prominent in their life was Prabhupada's mission. You see, Prabhupada's mission is a mission of giving Krishna consciousness. It's a mission of putting one's personal life in the background and minimizing, as far as possible, personal necessities so we can maximize giving Krishna consciousness to others and fulfilling the mission and desire of Prabhupada. Just like here in Mayapur, we're building this temple, and so many people are involved. But what would all these devotees be doing if that temple project wasn't there? Some, I think, would not be as enthusiastically engaged. Some may even leave Mayapur, go back to their countries, get a job, and kind of settle in a more ordinary life. But because there's this mission, and then they have this desire to connect with this mission, and they're inspired by Prabhupada's vision, then Prabhupada's inspiration and Prabhupada's desire becomes prominent. And therefore, their material life adjusts in such a way that they can give prominence to what Prabhupada wants, so that the way they live won't get in the way. So here in Mayapur, most devotees live very simply, in very small apartments, and their life and activities is predominantly engaged in devotional service, and accept as simple standard. Nobody has cars, ride around on bicycles, some have motorcycles, some walk. It's much simpler. So, but devotees are happy, they're willing to do that, because they can maximize service to the mission of Prabhupada. So, it doesn't mean that we are not meant to give Krishna consciousness according to our own realization, and doesn't mean that we're not meant to carry Krishna. But the point I'm making is that in the early days of the movement, the devotees didn't have much Krishna to carry. And so because they were so intensely carrying Prabhupada, or so dependent on Prabhupada, there was none of this sense of independently I can do so many things. It was always the sense that Prabhupada's doing it and I'm assisting. And of course it should still be that way. But now, of course, devotees are much older, so they have much more Krishna consciousness. It's not like they're going to go away, but now their desires are more genuine. So now Prabhupada's desire to spread Krishna consciousness, it's not just overriding their conditioning, but it's also become part of it's who they are also. It's what they want. If they had any choice in the world, that's what they would choose. As a one-year devotee, it wasn't exactly the same. But so therefore I'm saying we were successful because we allowed Prabhupada's desire to become ours. Now as we mature, that desire naturally becomes ours. So it's a different kind of channeling, you could say. It's a channeling where it's the inspiration has become more, we've connected more, where that mission has become ours so much that we're inspired, not as a desire that's overriding something, but that as a fundamental desire of ours also. It's like it's a different kind of infection, so to speak. It's an infection that's rooted within our heart rather than just overriding everything else. So still, I wouldn't say that that's all in all. I would say that still that connection with Prabhupada's desire is what motivates us. Because many devotees, even though they have that deep desire, they could look at themselves and say, well, why am I doing whatever I'm doing? Why am I here? Why am I there? Why am I in this country or that country? It's because of service to Prabhupada. Why am I traveling all around the world? Service to Prabhupada. It's not easy, but it's something I want to do. It's something I'm inspired to do. It's something that Prabhupada inspired me to do. But now it's become deeper within my heart. It's something that's more mine as opposed to just borrowed from Prabhupada, and I'm just grabbing on, to the truck, and the truck is pulling me, and I'm going 60 miles an hour. Now I'm able to pedal 60 miles an hour, or 50 miles an hour. Something like that. I don't know if that's clear, but it's simultaneously. We imbibe Prabhupada's desire and make it ours. And at the same time, we allow his desire to manifest as much as possible within our heart before it's fully seated there, before I'm so compassionate that I really care about the sufferings of others, that it really upsets me to see the sufferings of others. It's coming there, gradually we're developing that. but it upsets Prabhupada. And therefore, because it upsets him, it motivates us to do something, even if it doesn't fully upset us or fully bother us. Does that make sense? So, for us, and for all of you, Prabhupada should be your hero. He's the one who we follow, who's the guiding light, who we try to, his consciousness, his realization, we try to exemplify within our activities, within our life. How he preached, how he understood things, how he pushed things, the vision, all of this. We try to see things in that way, understand things in that way. We try to imbibe the moods that he had, the ways that he dealt with people, the ways that he related to devotees, the ways that he inspired people. We try to be like that. We try to become, not that we can exactly be like Prabhupada, not that we can always judge circumstances the way he judged it, but in general we see Prabhupada had a certain nature, had a certain realization, he had certain attitudes, certain ways of doing things, and we can imbibe those also, and that's how we become both more successful and Krishna conscious. And so Pallavi says, well, I'm also her hero, but to the degree that I can manifest what Prabhupada wanted, then you could say I'm your hero, because you're getting Prabhupada. And you also will be other people's heroes, because you can give them Prabhupada, and that will be your power. Sometimes when we're preaching, we'll repeat something that Prabhupada said, and people will say, that's wonderful. Your lecture was wonderful. You say, but what did I do? I was just explaining what Prabhupada said, and that's why it was wonderful. Or I'm just giving a vision of what Prabhupada wanted, or I'm expressing the desire that Prabhupada had. That's why it's wonderful. Otherwise, on my own, as Prabhupada said, what the disciple does that's wonderful is a reflection of his guru. So if the disciple can reflect his guru's desires, then the disciple becomes wonderful. Like Prabhupada said, the moon is just reflected light of the sun. It doesn't have its own light. But the moon is very bright. So a disciple can be very moonlight, but it's only because he's reflecting the light and particularly the desire of his guru. And another thing that's very, very important for the disciples to understand the heart of the guru. And of course, for us, as Prabhupada's disciples, we may accept disciples as Siksha or Diksha Guru. So, well, what's in the heart? The disciple think, well, what's in the heart of my guru? What's in the heart of your guru? What's in the heart of Prabhupada? So if you understand the heart of Prabhupada, then you understand the heart of your guru. You understand the heart of every Prabhupada disciple, and ultimately understand the heart of every devotee in ISKCON, or in that every devotee's heart should be the heart of Prabhupada. So, what was in the heart of Prabhupada? Well, we understand that what was in the heart of Prabhupada is that he wanted everyone in the world to be Krishna conscious. That was in his heart. That's what he wanted. And so now we understand that's Prabhupada's heart. And so Prabhupada said, now you think, you use your brain, you strain your brain, you think how we can spread Krishna consciousness to everyone. And so when Prabhupada was here, we were entirely absorbed in thinking how to give Krishna consciousness to others, how to expand it, how to distribute more books, how to get to more colleges, how to open more temples, how to do more Rath Yatras. Because that would give more Krishna consciousness to more people, and how to do those things better, so more people got it. Because that was Prabhupada's heart. That's what he came to do. We understood. He wanted to make everyone in the world Krishna conscious. So that's really our mission. You think, what is the mission of ISKCON? It's to make everyone in the world Krishna conscious. And if we can do anything to help any person become more Krishna conscious, then we're connected with the heart of Prabhupada. And we pray to Prabhupada to become more empowered to do that. And of course, we understand that we'll become more empowered to do that the more we represent Prabhupada. And equally important, which I haven't been stressing, I don't want to stress this now because I don't want to minimize this, is following Prabhupada. Equally important is that we become a follower of Prabhupada. We follow the instructions that he gave us. Because it's not just our words, but it's who we are that's going to affect people. So then we want to become personifications of what Prabhupada wanted a devotee to do, how Prabhupada wanted a devotee to behave. And that is also an important ingredient. So in spreading Krishna consciousness and making other people Krishna conscious, so if you take this concept, I'm carrying Prabhupada, well, one way you carry Prabhupada is by following his instructions in your life, so your life becomes a personification of the teachings of Prabhupada, and then so you're also teaching that way, and you're also teaching other people just by your lifestyle, by what you think and how you act and the attitudes you have. And of course, naturally, the more Krishna conscious you become, the more you have Krishna, the more people will feel it. So ultimately, if we look at this, what I'm talking about from the beginning, say where we didn't have much Krishna, and we were, channeling Prabhupada, so to speak, then you bring it to where we wanted to come. We want to become more like Prabhupada. So we're yes, channeling, but we're also manifesting Prabhupada through our daily sadhana, but we're manifesting the desires that he had, not in the sense that I was saying before, where I don't really care about people, but Prabhupada does, so therefore I will help people. But where our desire becomes Prabhupada's desire, that's the higher stage, where we become compassionate, because that's what he wants, and so we actually begin to feel or experience, realize the things that he's feeling, experiencing, realizing, obviously not to that degree, but more and more as we advance. And that's a symptom of advancing. So kind of putting both things together, channeling Prabhupada's desire, and then making that desire our desire, to the core of our heart, so it becomes who we are. Prabhupada's humility. So it's not just a show, but it manifests within us, because that's what he wants from us. So it's not just that I'm humble because he wants it, but also I'm humble because it's developing within me, because Prabhupada wants me to develop it. So that's there also. And then the more that happens, then the more we see Prabhupada manifesting within ISKCON through the hearts of devotees. And so, I think that's why a lot of devotees feel Prabhupada's presence more keenly when they're with Prabhupada's disciples, because generally you'll see Prabhupada's disciples naturally manifest Prabhupada more. But it should be that way for all of us. And it has to continue for generations. It can't be that Prabhupada's a remote figure. It has to be that Prabhupada's very alive within the hearts of devotees in ISKCON. His desires are very alive. His mission is very alive. What his mission, clearly understanding his mission, what it was, it should be very alive in the hearts of everyone in ISKCON, because he's everyone's guru. He's everyone's Siksha guru. We all follow him. And whatever you're getting from your guru, it's just what your guru's trying to manifest, what Prabhupada taught. Right? Okay, we have to take a station break, because if we don't, the recording I'm making is going to have my wife and daughter talking in the background. The conversations are coming out on the recording. Okay? Okay, we're back from our station break. So, why don't we see if you have any questions or comments? I mean, I can speak a little more, but if you have something you want to add or explain, then let me know. I'm actually quite excited that the internet is actually working now. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to work in a minute from now. It doesn't mean it's going to work next week, because this is India. Anything goes in India. But there's a chance we can do this every week. I can even change the timing if it doesn't work for everybody. So, okay. I want to say another thing about what it was like to be with Prabhupada. If you're, I don't know if this is still working, or we lost you or something. Are you still available? India happens, yes. India happens, yeah. It definitely does. And Pallavi's in India, so she's Indian, but she's been in America, so she forgot what it was like to be in India. So one thing about Prabhupada, Guru Das mentioned, and I was also thinking before he spoke, that being with Prabhupada, or being in ISKCON when Prabhupada was alive, was very fun. Things were fun. I mean, Prabhupada was not ordinary, so still is not ordinary. And what he did, it was never ordinary. So ordinary things didn't happen around Prabhupada. It was like everything was extraordinary. It was like they're different. It was like the different laws of nature were operating around Prabhupada. I mean, if you read any of Prabhupada's pastimes, I mean, this is the way when I read it, even though I was there in so many of these pastimes, when I read it now, it's almost like a storybook. It's like reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's like Leela. It's like, this is all Leela. It's just not ordinary things. It's like where Prabhupada went, ordinary things didn't happen. It was always extraordinary. He would say something to somebody that nobody in the world would ever say, and then get a reaction that nobody would get because of what Prabhupada said. And then the whole conversation would ensue, and dynamics would come out. It was like a drama, and it was like Leela. It was like Krishna was entering into this drama, and Prabhupada could see how things were going, and Krishna was sending people, and people were doing things that even today they can't do, that they were empowered to do when Prabhupada was here, and people were responding in ways that people don't normally respond, and people were coming forward to help, and people who shouldn't take books were taking them, and the people who wouldn't ordinarily give money were giving it, and people were helping that ordinarily wouldn't help, and things were happening that ordinarily wouldn't happen. It was just very exciting, and so we would go out preaching, and we were kind of in this mood. I mean, I don't think we consciously felt like there were different laws of nature operating. But subconsciously, we were in this mood, like that things in Prabhupada's movement happen differently than in the rest of the world. And therefore, we could be very bold about doing things, and very expansive in our thinking, to think about preaching in ways that we actually didn't have qualification to do, but we fearlessly would think and plan to do things that were just beyond our capacity, and wouldn't even give it a second thought, because it was like other laws of nature were operating. Oh yeah, let's go do this. Yeah. It's like, the world's our playground, and we'll just give Krishna consciousness, and we'll just plan to do this and that, and yeah, of course it's going to happen, because it's Prabhupada's mercy, everything's happening. And so we'd go out and say, well, let's just go out and have fun, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and somehow or other things would happen. And then we'd get news about Prabhupada doing this and that and this and that and this project and that project and this person, and it was like, how is this happening? We don't even have money to do this, and all of a sudden money appears. We don't have people to do this, and people appear. And people who aren't qualified to do things are now doing them. How is this happening? It was like, now there are laws of nature, transcendental laws. Krishna Shakti is happening. The Sankirtan movement is spreading. And then we get the prediction of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that in Mayapur there'll be a big temple and devotees from all over the world will come. And then, Russia opens. And then all of a sudden, Mayapur festival, the first year, the Russians come. And like, wow. And it's like, it's happening, it's like, oh, this is mystical. Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicted it, and now, the Russians are here, the Americans are here, and, America and Russia, we used to be enemies, and now we're chanting and kirtan together, so it's like, whoa, This is like transcendental, this is not ordinary. And this of course, has never happened in the history of the world, where malechas, people outside the Vedic culture, become devotees. And so we're watching all this, and it's like Prabhupada's a magician, a mystic, and it's like all these things are going on, and we're just like, whoa, and we feel like it's not us, it's this energy, and we're just part of it. So, this gives you a background to understand why you may have heard, or if you haven't heard, I'll tell you, but many devotees would say, even though Prabhupada was very sick and it looked like he was dying, many devotees would say, no, we didn't believe Prabhupada was dying because we couldn't conceive of ISKCON without Prabhupada. Because here's the Pied Piper, here's the mystic magician making everything happen. Everyone's following him, everyone's giving their lives, they're sleeping on the floor, getting up early in the morning, taking bath in the winter and the snow in America, traveling, doing just phenomenal austerities. It's impossible that Prabhupada wouldn't be here because he's the heart of ISKCON. If the heart goes, the body dies. So nobody believed that Prabhupada would ever leave. I mean, not until we were mature in bhakti, and we weren't mature in bhakti in 1977, so nobody believed he would ever leave. It was just like, of course Prabhupada's going to stay because there is no ISKCON without him. So if you ever hear, if you ever hear devotees say that, you understand the background. Why? Because he was like moving everything, right? And if you look at the history of ISKCON, a few years after Prabhupada left, there was a lot of trouble. And a good analogy to understand this was training wheels on a bicycle. So a kid is riding a bike with training wheels, and he doesn't realize that the reason he's able to ride the bike is because they're training wheels. He just thinks he's a great bike rider. Then you take the training wheels off and he crashes. It's like Prabhupada was there just lifting everything up, and then he left. And there was this momentum that he created, and everything kept going. But after a few years, it was harder and harder to keep going. Because now it required more of our own Shakti, more of our own efforts. More of an endeavor to more closely and carefully follow his instructions. Whereas when he was here, whatever we lacked, it was just like he was the net and just caught us and just pushed us up. So there was a shift by, let's say, 1981, 82, 83. There was this shift. It was, things weren't just now always expanding. Things weren't always getting better. There were starting to be problems, difficulties. In some places, things were getting worse. We never saw this before. Things never got worse with Prabhupada. They always grew. It was a shock. It was an unprecedented experience that things actually decreased. They never, from the time Prabhupada came, nothing decreased. It expanded every day. Every day it expanded. And now it was starting to decrease. So we realized that to connect with Prabhupada, to connect with his Shakti, now it required more from us. It had to go more deeply within our hearts. It had to become more of who we are. And we couldn't just rely on him overriding who we were. We couldn't, we had to examine more carefully what he wanted, what his mission was, and connect more deeply with it. And it was difficult, and the movement is still growing and struggling with that. But the more that we align ourselves with what Prabhupada wanted, and the more we dedicate ourselves to that, the more we will see that expansion, just as it was with Prabhupada. But after Prabhupada left, there was a lot of misunderstanding and deviation from his desire. So Prabhupada says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you fulfill the desire of the Guru, then you get his Shakti and his mercy and everything expands. He said, but if you don't fulfill it and you try to, in so-called serve and spread Krishna consciousness, you become powerless. Because the power is in his instruction. That's where all the Shakti is. So of course, as I'm saying, Shakti was there, Prabhupada was there. There had to be Shakti because he would correct any mistake and keep everything moving. So now, when he's not there, we have to keep it moving according to his direction. This is a little more of a challenge because he's not there to keep it directed that way. But if we direct it according to his instruction, then the Shakti is there and things move. And then people like ourselves, like yourself, can do a phenomenal, wonderful service, even though you feel that you're not special. But special things can happen by our connecting with Prabhupada. Mystical, magical things will happen. And I think we should look for those things. And I think we should know, maybe not always, but sometimes we should know that when those things are happening, we should go, oh, Prabhupada is working here. Something breaks. We got this break, this came through, this happened. This is not ordinary. Prabhupada is there working. So as we connect with his desire, his will, and allow ourselves to be utilized as instruments of his will, then we'll see his will being manifest through us. And therefore, then we're just a cog, a screw in the machine, and the machine's doing it, and we somehow are getting credit. Well, without this screw, the machine couldn't work. It's true, but it's just a screw. But anyway, that's how it works. So Pallavi says, as you said, Guru and disciple are always spiritually together. I agree. Personally, I keep on struggling with the fact that I'm missing the opportunity of his association, whatever the reason. I'm just not able to find acceptance. That my conditioning. Yeah. Well, it's like realizing Krishna in his holy name. So how do you realize Krishna in his holy name? Well, you have to become purified. Because only when the senses are purified can we realize that. And so Prabhupada said, you live with the spiritual master eternally by following his instructions. So whenever you follow Prabhupada's instructions, he's there. Even when you read his books, he's there. So, and Prabhupada said, when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're all together. So, of course, how do you realize this? How easy is it to realize this? Not easy, because we're not that pure that we can see it. But at least we understand in principle. And then so we try to understand the principle. How is Prabhupada present in this service? Because you're serving his mission, and therefore you're expanding his mission. He's not different than ISKCON, he's not different than the service. So you kind of have to accept it. Obviously it's not the same as sitting in front of him, but in many ways it is. And he can speak to you and he can guide you also. But at least you should feel a connection when you're serving, because you're helping spread his movement. You should feel a connection to him. I mean, I don't think it should be any different for you than it is for me. Prabhupada gave us this movement. It's as much your movement as my movement, as everyone's movement. He gave us this movement, and so it's his movement that he's given to us, and so we feel this connection to him. If I'm helping maintain and spread his movement through following his instructions and helping others follow his instructions, then I'm connected with him because this is his desire, this is his mission, and you can feel that. I'm helping Prabhupada in his mission, just like you tell a friend about Krishna, you try to engage them. You introduce a friend to me, I speak to them. Everything you did was to help that person become Krishna conscious, and as we said, that's Prabhupada's mission, and therefore it's you're connected with him. He's there. You're closely linked. You just have to become more aware of it, I think. So, I think we'll end here. It's 7:30 in the morning for me, and today's Gopastami, all kinds of things happening, and I have to meet someone at the temple. But I'm happy we were able to do this. And so we can plan on doing this next week, and probably you can send out an email to everybody and let them know that it's working. At least it worked this week, and we did it. And You can also send out an email to the whole entire mailing list, of 700 devotees or whatever, just to let them know. And if anyone has suggestions for doing it another time, we can. But this time works for me also. Okay? So thank you very much, everyone. And Hari Bol to you all. Hare Krishna.